Hello, welcome to Berkshire Guitar Amplifier Repairs. Stuart Smith on the bench as always, and we've got another Fender Blues Junior in today. I thought I'd make a video of this one because it's going to be quite a complicated repair, and it's going to need a new pot. I've already diagnosed the problem, and to put a new pot in we're going to have to take the board out, so I thought you might be interested in how to take the board out of a Fender Blues Junior in case you have to do some work on it. So let's have a quick look at this amp. It's a bit of an old girl. It's been around the block a few times and been in storage, so it needs a bit of TLC. But the woman who bought it said her daughter had it for a while, and her daughter had said it wasn't working. And I've turned it on. It seems to be okay. We'll have a look in a minute. But when you touch the treble control, the sound comes and goes, and I think the treble pot is faulty. It might have had a bit of a bash. Anyway, let's have a look around this amp and see what you think. Well, the front's not looking too bad, needs a bit of a clean up, but it's had paint spilled all over it. I'm not quite sure. She said she was an artist or something, so I'm not quite sure what this amp has been used for, but it's got paint all over it. I might try and get that off and clean it up a bit. Bit of a sad old amp at the moment, and look how dirty the top panel is, really filthy. That can all be cleaned up quite nicely. We'll power it up in a second and I'll show you the fault, but here's the treble control, and it's very sort of wobbly. It feels really sort of wobbly, and yeah, it just doesn't feel good as you turn it. It feels like it's not connected. So let's power it up and I'll show you what the issue is. So here we are on the back of the amp. You can see it's pretty filthy. Look at the state of this, pretty horrible. And in the back it's not too bad. It all looks fairly clean. These electrolytics here often need changing. I often advise them to change them on spec, but I think this customer's a little bit short of money, so I won't be doing that. And I've examined them and there's no leakage or anything, so they're probably good to go for a little while longer. So the pot in question is this treble one here, look. See, it's fairly, let me give it a waggle for you. Can you see that's sort of quite loose? Look, it feels really horrible. And in order to change that pot, of course, we have to, there it is under there, you probably can't see it in the shadow there. We will need to take the board out. Now, taking the board out on these is a bit of a knack, but I'll show you how to do it. What we're going to be doing is first of all removing this little subboard because the main board can't come past it. We will be taking out the screws. Look, you know, there's one there, there's one there, there's one there, etc. We'll take out those. We have to take the knobs off. There are no nuts holding these pots on, which again makes them vulnerable to this kind of problem. And then it's a question of getting our fingers inside here on the board and pushing down really hard, like almost all your muscle strength, until the board goes down and the pot shafts can just about clear here. It's quite tricky to do, but I'll demonstrate it to you, having done many of these in the past. I think we also have a little bit of an issue here. No, I think those come past. The best you can do is swing the board down so that you can get to the various items. And you have to be a bit careful about these ribbon cables too, not to flex them too much. All in all, a bit of a naff design, isn't it? You know, in order to get a board out, you have to clip that cable there as well to loosen up these wires. And yeah, I think that's about it. Maybe you have to clip this one to allow this black wire a bit more leeway. And yeah, the other thing I remember being, you have to be careful about not to pull this LED out from here when you bring the board down. So I'll probably unclip those as well. Anyway, let's make a start. And if you ever want to know how to take a board out of a Fender Blues Junior, here we go. Okay, we'll make a start by cutting some of these cable ties. 2, and I'll do this one too. Gives us a bit of room, and I think we'll do this one as well. Gives us all a bit more room. Okay, the next thing I want to do is to take off these knobs. No particular order of doing this. I always use a flat bladed screwdriver and just very gently just lever up as I'm pulling up on the opposite side. It's like that, and that takes the knob off like that. So this treble one's very iffy. Came off okay though. Yeah, it does feel looser than the others. There's no danger of scratching the panel doing this, I promise you, if you're very gentle, which I am. The trick is to pull up on the opposite side of the knob with your finger as you're levering up on this side. At the same time, I'm sure there are other ways of getting these off, but this is the way it always works. And as I say, there are no nuts holding these shafts on. They just go through the chassis here. Some of these don't feel much better than the treble, but I think that treble's had a knock of some sort. Okay, so now we're going to take out the screws that hold in the board, and there are quite a few of these. I can't remember exactly how many. You just have to keep undoing them until you run out of them, basically. Oh, I've just remembered I was going to take out that little subboard here, which I'll do in a moment. What else have we got in the way of screws? One up here, top left. And one here, top right. There's an input jack nut here, which I will just take off. There we go. Let's just check. I think that's all the... Oh, there's another screw here. As I say, just when you think you've done them all, keep finding another one. One there. Is that it? Yeah, you can usually tell if the board's a bit loose, which this isn't particularly. Any more there? Anything lurking down here? Ah, yes, there's one up here. I thought that felt a bit solid, that board. There we go. Right, now the next thing you need to do is to take this blue wire off here. You can't do anything with this here in the way. To get these off, I just get a pair of pliers, support the board and give it a sort of sharp tug like you're pulling a tooth. And that comes out the way. You need to remember to put that back on afterwards. The next thing I'm going to do is take out this little subboard here, because you can't do much with that in the way. Right, I've loosened the nuts on that. 1, 2, and they've got these shape-proof washers underneath them, which makes life very difficult when you come to put this back. I'll just show you. That's the board out of the way, and they've got these 2 shake-proof washers here, which need to go under. I'll try to remember that when I put those back. Now, I think we're in a position to try and get the board out. Okay, now this is a very difficult operation, so what we want to do is to get the board down a bit first of all, just kind of on its way down. We have to get these pots clear of the, I think we might have to take the 2 reds off as well. I don't do this, you know, more than every few months, so it's hard to remember. So I'm just going to take these two reds off. There we go. Get those out of the way. Right, now, on the board come down. I want it just to come down a bit first of all. I'm going to sort of show you this in real time rather than kind of cutting, because I want you to see how hard it is to make sure these wires are kind of out of the way. It's coming. Right, now the pot shafts are just clearing the top holes here. And I'm going to put my fingers in here and put quite a bit of pressure down. Now we're here to this position, and the object is to get these shafts to clear this lip here. And to do that, put your fingers in, find a suitable spot on the board, and you really have to give it some welly, like that. And there we go, and that's the board out. Look, just be mindful of these ribbon cables here. So I'm not going to do too much more than that. I want to do minimal waggling of the board as I can. So the treble pot is this one here. So I'm going to remove that pot. I'm going to use some solder wick to do that. I always use this Chemwick solder wick. Very good product. And before we put this back, we can clean this top panel, which is nice. Very difficult to clean when the board's in place. Right, I'm not going to show you me desoldering. That's going to be a little bit awkward for me to do, so I'm just going to get in there with the soldering iron and the solder wick and go over those contacts, and hopefully this pot will just drop out. Now, I think I almost certainly don't have a pot like this, because it's a bit specialist, so I might have to send off to Fender for one. I will have a look, but I don't think so. It's a funny looking pot. It's got a great big long specialist shaft, so all in all not good. Anyway, let's get the thing out first of all. Okay, that solder wick did the job, and there we go, there's the pot out. I mean, these are so cheap and cheerful, these pots. They are absolutely made for pennies. Look at this little thing here. Really, really cheap and nasty. Now I noticed the little lugs holding the base on are sort of slightly opened. What I'm going to do, obviously if we could save this pot, we will. So I'm just going to put it on a meter and see as it is, and see if I can prove that it's got this problem that we've been experiencing. And then I'm going to tighten those lugs there just in case that cures it. So as I say, I don't think I've got a pot like this. Now I've got the pot on the resistance meter, and as you can see it's open circuit until I turn it clockwise. See what happens. Nothing. Anti-clockwise. Boom! Suddenly we get a reading. So that's exactly what we experienced, wasn't it, when we had it in the circuit. So let's just try tightening the body of that just in case we get lucky. And no, that's made no difference at all. It tightened up quite nicely, but still there's nothing until I go all the way anti-clockwise and suddenly bang. So we do need a new pot on this. It's a pity. I think it's been hit, obviously. You get a bang on the top, and that's pretty much the end of it. Let's see. Yeah, see, I think I can see a little crack down the whole kind of length of this pot, sort of along where my thumb is there, that thumbnail. See if you can see that. See that crack there? So I think that's the problem with that. Right, let me have a look to see if I've got one. I think these are called snap-in pots, with these lugs here that hold it in place. Here are the terminals, obviously 1, 2, 3, and these two lugs here are soldered to the board. Where are we? Here and here, look, and they hold the pot firmly in place. So I need a snap-in pot, and don't suppose they've printed a value on the back of it, have they? Might be too much to ask for. Yeah, I can see that B, I think it's B250K. Let me see if by chance I've got one for a Fender Blues Junior. Well, you wouldn't believe it, but I actually do have the correct part in stock. It is, as I said, a control snap-in pot that they're called, and it's the same as 250KB, which is perfect, and it's exactly the same look. So amazingly, I've got this part, and I remember that I got it as well. When you're doing this sort of business, and other techs will be nodding in agreement, and so will mechanics, car mechanics and stuff, you kind of know what you've got. You've got a sort of feeling that wasn't there a box on the top shelf somewhere which I got 47 years ago, which had an exact size screw in it for this particular job, and you go rootling around, and sure enough, there it is. You know exactly where it was, even decades later. This is probably 10 years ago I bought this, but I did know somewhere in the depths of my mind that I had one. Anyway, there you go. So I'm going to pop this in. And just whilst I notice it, the bases of all these pots are all very dirty, so I'm just going to go along, since I've got the board out like this, with a toothbrush, and get all that gunk out of there. Not doing any particular harm, but it's just nice, ready to get it clean. There we go. And here's the new pot, which should just snap in, as the saying goes. So let's... Sure I've got the right one. Done that before now. Well, yeah, would you believe I actually picked up the old pot there? Yes, that was careless of me. Nearly put the old pot back in. Ooh, how I would have laughed. Right, there we go. And to be fair, they do kind of, snap in. That's what it says on the tin. So now I'm just going to solder those 5 connections, and we can have a look at this top panel. There we go, one pot in, that's great. Now have a look at this panel here. Look, isn't it absolutely hideous? Really filthy. God dear. So I'm going to get some spray on that, and we'll give it a spray. I've got some spray here. Oh no, that was concentrated nitric acid. Oh no, what have I done? Oh no, sorry, no it isn't, no, right. No, it's just a Servicol foam cleanser. Phew, for a moment there. Oh, look at that, it's coming up beautifully. Nice. God dear, what a difference that's made. Oh, that's so satisfying. We'll have a go at this paint as well at some point. Right, now let's see if we can get the board back in. Always a joy. Okay, getting the board back in is the reverse procedure. So basically we're going to push it back down if we can. These bundles of wires here that sometimes stop it going back. Try not to bend the pots when you do this, because they won't line up very easily. Now we're going to push down hard and get it underneath there, which we managed to do, and then bring it up. See if we can get some of those pots to come through. Just want to sort of temporarily hold the board in place so I don't have to keep pushing up like this. There we go, right. So now that's in place, and if we can get one screw in, we're doing quite well. So put a screw in, lift the board, and see if that will go into its receptacle underneath, and it has. Great. So that is now in place, that board, and we go and put the other screws in. just as difficult to find out where they went as it is to find out where they come out from. Now there was one up here, yeah. If you've got a screw left over, you've missed one. And another one here. Two more. One up here. And the final one. Where did you come from? Up underneath here, very hard to spot. Weird distribution of screws really, there's no kind of logic to it. Okay, so now we're going to put this little subboard back in. As I said, it's a bit difficult to do with these little screws. Sometimes you can get away with just positioning those washers over the hole. And of course you can probably imagine as you try and put this in, it moves those around, and it gets a bit difficult. Let's see if we can... Yeah, got lucky there. Didn't move the washers as I put the board in. Sometimes just a little blob of glue. Stick the washers in first. Yeah, don't glue them in, just a little tiny drop to keep them in place. And then put the board in when the glue's dried. Right, so that's these two back in. Now we need to remember to put all our cables back on once we pulled off. And from memory it was just these two reds and a blue. Right, I'll give those a little half turn in a moment. So two reds here, look. They're actually marked red and red, so that's good. 1, 2 and a blue. These are all HT of course. Don't want to be grabbing these when the amp's on. It's so short, this blue lead. Only just reaches to there. This is one half of the output transformer. One half of the output transformer. Brown is the other half of the output transformer. And this red here is the centre tap. In other words, that's the HT. Okay, we're actually good enough to turn it on. I think let's turn it on. And we're on. Treble's working. Bass is working. Middle. Master. Got any reverb? God, we haven't got reverb. That amp is working. That was a nice little fix, that actually. Went very smoothly. Couldn't believe I had that in stock. Okay, so what am I going to do now? I think I'm going to... The lady who owns this doesn't want to spend a lot of money on it, so I'm going to leave it at that. It's basically working. So we'll put the knobs back on. We'll clean up some of these knobs first. They are covered in paint and stuff, look, so I'll do that first. And then we'll put the knobs on, and then I'm going to see if I can get some of this paint off the top. Clean it up a little bit, and we're going to call it job done on that. And there we go, that looks a little bit better. Took a little bit of elbow grease and a toothbrush with some white spirit, and then some soft top cleaner, and then some boot polish, and yeah, it's come up a lot better. Right, well, I think that's it. I think that's quite a good one. Lucky to have that part in stock, and that's how you change a pot, or indeed get the board out on a Fender Blues Junior. So I hope that's useful to you, and I'll see you again on the next video.